The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
Welcome to Live and Learn. Independence, dignity, and security. These are important for all of us. Today we'll talk about a technology that enables us to live with dignity and security in our own homes. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Tom Johnson. Our guest is Dr. David Myers, Counseling and Program Development Manager of Mental Health at Bryan Counseling Center. In this segment, we will discuss the fine line between being alone or lonely.
I'm Bill Ainsley. Welcome to this segment of Live and Learn. Today we're going to be talking with Peggy Apthorpe, and we're going to be talking about how you can walk safely through the winter storms and through the ice and snow and maybe not worry about falling.
I'm Kristen Stowes, and I'm inviting you for a play date as I talk with Mike Bretta of Toys from the Past.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
Hey, welcome to Live and Learn. Today we're going to hear about a simple device that offers safety and peace of mind. I'm Kim Hachia. My guests today are Suzanne Frazier and Mitch Sump from Aging Partners. We're going to chat about Philips Lifeline, which is a technology that helps you or your loved ones get help with the simple touch of a button. Aging Partners is one of several organizations in Lincoln that offers these type of projects. Mitch Sump, you're the program coordinator at Aging Partners. Why would people be interested in a Lifelines product?
A couple of reasons. First one, and probably the foremost one that most people think about, is security. They're worried about maybe being by themselves at home for extended periods of time. And then something that a lot of people don't think about is the security of their loved ones. We probably average 10 to 12 calls a month where people are calling for their parents or for a loved one or for someone they just want to overview. And the second one, and even though it's kind of the same thing as peace of mind, or the same thing as security, is peace of mind, because they know that their loved ones are going to be taken care of, and it's not just a matter of someone has fallen or someone has locked themselves out, or there's a potential for a fire, there's the potential for an intruder. It doesn't matter. The button can be pushed for whatever reason they want. So
is it mostly people that live alone, people that, what's the kind of client that you might see?
The majority of our clients are people who still want to live independently. Maybe they don't have the wherewithal to do it and do everything in their homes. And that's one of the program's whole features, is that people get a chance to live independently. They aren't required to be moving into an assisted living area or a rest home or something of that nature. It's just that whole peace of mind, going back to your first question.
So is it the kind of thing that if you live in a facility, this wouldn't be a good product? Or if you, I guess I'm thinking if you live in a single family house versus, let's say, an apartment complex, but they work for any kind of living situation?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it can be in an urban setting too, or a rural setting. There is no limitations. It would just depend on which system we would have to use for the area that they're going to be in.
Right. Suzanne, you're at Aging Partners, you're the Lifeline specialist, and I know that there's several different products in the product line that Philips offers that you folks handle. So tell me a little bit about the various products here.
Sure. Basically, if you still have a regular landline telephone or you just have a cell phone, we can help you with either one. They wear a button, and the standard buttons, which would look like these, they can either be worn around the neck as a pendant or a stretchy wristband. And they depress the button, and then we would come in and install a two-way speaker communicator in the home. If they need help, they simply press the button. That activates a call to the response center, either button. These standard buttons, there are coverage for just around your home or your apartment, your immediate living area. If it's someone who is very movable, they walk a dog, they're still driving by themselves, then Philips also has what we call the Go Safe. That goes anywhere with you, not only in town, but this covers anywhere in the continental United States. That one is a little bigger, this is the only button that they do communicate through the button. If you have the coverage just in your home, you don't speak through the button. You speak through the two-way communicator in the home and you talk to the response center. They do not have to be right in front of that speaker. They could be in the bath or the bedroom. The response center will be able to still talk to them. They don't have to try to get themselves to the box and do more damage if they're injured. And our buttons are all waterproof. We encourage them to wear them in the bath and the shower because that's where falls could occur.
Right. So tell me about if the client pushes the button. Tell me about, you talked about a response center. Tell me about that and what
Right.
happens then.
Aging Partners uses the Philips equipment, and Philips has their own response center, which is actually outside Boston. The communicators are engineered so that when the button is activated, they will hear the communicator verbally say, "Your help call is in progress, please wait," while it connects to the response center. Then they will hear them come on, they will call the subscriber by name and ask them if they need help. And at that point, the subscriber instructs the response center on who to call for them. When we have this service, it is not an automatic 911 unless they request 911. They have the option of having up to 3 responders. Those would be people that they could call to come if it's not an emergency. A son, a daughter, a neighbor, a friend, whoever they have designated, up to 3. We also ask that those responders make sure that if the home is locked, they have access to get in. And that's when we suggest that if they have a key, or people that have garage door codes, or they have a lockbox, we put that on their profile as to how to gain access. So if it would be a 911 dispatch, those guys are going to do their job, and if they have to break your door to get to you,
Right.
they will.
So if you call the button and the response center answers, but the client can't speak, does the
Right.
response center then make the decision to call 911, or how does that work?
Normally, if they receive a button push, they will try to communicate with the subscriber. If they're not hearing them, the first thing they do is try to call them back on their phone
Oh,
to see if they
okay.
answer. If they do not answer, then they would get on the phone to the listed responders. Worst case scenario, none of the responders are available, they would go ahead and dispatch 911 to do a wellness check to make sure they're all right. And I think I did fail to mention, we do have one other option of the buttons. It's called the auto alert, which detects a fall in about 95% of the situations, so that if someone is unable to verbal speak or they're unconscious, if they do not move and they fall and there's no movement in 30 seconds, this automatically generates a call to the response center. It goes to them indicating that they've fallen. They will still try to communicate with them. That is the one and only time that their normal protocol, it says they fell, they haven't moved, and they're not speaking, they would roll 911.
Wow, that's
Automatically.
really interesting. So, Mitch, what kind of emergencies have been called in, as far as you know? I mean, I know maybe, do you get like reports that say, well,
Yes.
we got 6 calls this week? Or
We get daily reports if an incident has occurred, if a button has been pushed, if a fall has been detected, or someone just wanting some assistance. I'm going to gather probably 9 out of 10 calls are going to be a fall. And it isn't necessarily a disabling fall, but the folks just need some assistance in getting up. And in Lincoln, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of people who call and they're embarrassed. Well, please don't do this, please don't do this. Or if 911 is called, please don't have them come into my neighborhood with sirens blaring. Lincoln has a very nice program, Lift Assist. And they will dispatch either a police officer or a fire provider, or a fire provider, good Mitch, to come and help these folks get up. And they don't come in with sirens blaring
Right.
and lights flashing. The whole thing is to keep the folks who want to live independently, we're allowing them to keep their self-esteem.
Right.
And that's very, very important in this program.
So could people also do that, though, if they thought somebody was breaking in, or if
Oh,
maybe they had a
absolutely.
fire or something like that?
Absolutely.
So-
And we do get some unusual calls. Some of them are kind of entertaining. Suzanne tells a story about one of the ladies took off her button, threw it down onto the bed to take a shower, even though they are waterproof, as she mentioned. Of course, she's in the shower, she doesn't hear the responder, and the firefighters are there when she gets out of the shower, so it's
Oops.
kind of interesting.
I don't even know what to say to
But
that.
it worked.
It did work.
All I said was the service worked.
The service worked, and that's what you want.
Right.
You know, my own mother has the Lifeline system and has had to use it a couple of times. And you personally came out, which you do with all clients to help set
Right.
up the system. So talk a little bit about how that happened. Like, what did you do when you came out?
Right. When I receive an inquiry that they want to go with the service, we take the intake information over the telephone prior to scheduling the install. And the intake information, obviously, we just need the basics, your address, your phone number, who are your responders, who do you want, their phone numbers. We also take and note any pertinent medical conditions, like do you have a history of stroke, diabetes, high blood pressure, that type of information. We also ask if they have a preferred hospital, not that it's ever used. And then after we get that information, whatever time works for them, we will come out, we bring it out, we hook it up, we'll walk around and do a range test on the button to make sure we're getting a signal, and we have them push the button and call the response center so that they can hear, and then they get a welcome from the response center so that they are comfortable speaking with the responders and with the response center. And they're very good. They're very easy to understand, and they are trained. They have an 80-hour training that they go through before they ever go live on the response center.
Wow, that's reassuring to know
Yes.
that they know what they're doing and they're compassionate and caring.
Yes, and they're trained on gerontology and 911 situations, and so they're very good.
That's great. So Mitch, if people are interested in this product, who would they contact? How do they get started on just making the decision about this?
They can contact Suzanne or myself. The number to reach us at is 402-441-8816. That's the direct Lifelines line at Aging Partners, and that's really where the process begins on getting them the equipment they need.
Okay, and so then once they call that, then they get hooked up with Suzanne and she starts the process that she just talked about?
Correct.
Great.
Right.
So let's talk about it one more time. Peace of mind, security, independence. Anything else that you think people ought to know about this product?
Well, go
Well,
ahead.
I'd say basically, I like to tell people that a lot of them will inquire, and the basic comment I get is, my kids are on me to do this. I don't think I'm old enough for this. My question to them is, what is that magic age? Because there isn't one. And we don't go on age. This is not a 60 plus or 65 plus. We put Lifeline in for any age. Everyone's medical condition and situations are different, and we just want them to be, like I say, it's a cheap insurance policy. You've got it, hopefully you don't have to cash in on it.
Great.
But it's there if you need it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mitch and Suzanne, for telling us about the Lifeline product. If you want more information, call Aging Partners. The number will be on the screen. I just want to tell you that I'm Kim Hachia, and I'm reminding you, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hello, I'm Tom Johnson, and our guest is Dr. David Myers, who is the Counseling and Program Development Manager of Mental Health at Bryan Counseling Center. Dr. Myers, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about two topics, or maybe one topic at all. It's called alone and lonely. One can be healthy, the other maybe not so. Alone by choice and lonely due to many reasons. So Dr. Myers, let's take a look at alone first. This is something that a choice can be made by an individual, correct?
That is correct. Oftentimes individuals like to be alone. Alone is more of the physical state where you're by yourself and you choose to be alone. And a lot of times individuals like to be alone because that's kind of their time to recharge and to kind of recharge their batteries, and whether you're driving or spending time alone at home. But also can also be when you look at being alone, individuals is not a choice. If you have a death in the family or if you lose a spouse, Now all of a sudden you're living alone, or a divorce. So there are some life circumstances that do happen that create a person to be alone.
But that alone philosophy, I mean, is like the drive from Omaha to Lincoln or Lincoln to Omaha. Gives you kind of a chance to really ferret out the things for the day.
Absolutely, yeah. Individuals really, and oftentimes the individuals who are, who are more creative, just kind of crave that alone time, because that's their time to think and, like you said, to kind of sort things out, to develop that those creative ideas and put those into action.
Is there a pretty thin line between alone and lonely, or is it pretty black and white?
Well, individuals who, you can be alone, but not be lonely. So you can, it's a physical state. Where loneliness is more of an emotional state, where I feel lonely. It's kind of that achiness, or that where I feel like I am alone. So an example would be if you went to the football game and you have 90,000 people around you, or you go to class or you go to work and you have people around you. You're not alone, but you might feel lonely. It's that emotional state that a person has. So it's okay to be, alone, and sometimes it's okay to kind of have the blues or have that loneliness, but loneliness can lead to more serious things such as depression. It's a symptom of depression. So that's something to be aware of.
Now that's something that everybody has, the blues, the downs. I mean, it's just part of our human makeup, I guess, but I mean, there are others who are just drugged down by these heavy blues.
Right, and it's if you're feeling lonely and have that loneliness, but it's also impacting your sleep, and you're having trouble sleeping, and it's impacting your appetite, maybe having some, it's kind of that self-doubt, some of those negative thoughts, but it's really impacting you for a period of 2 weeks or more, then we're probably talking more along the lines of depression, and that's important to really get in and see somebody, to see a professional and get some get an evaluation to determine, is this depression that I'm dealing with. But if you're lonely, there are things that you can do to combat that loneliness, which would not lead to depression. So just because you're lonely doesn't mean that you're going to be depressed.
Do most people recognize the fact that they are lonely and depressed or what have you, or is this something that members of the family or friends recognize first?
Sometimes you can recognize it. I mean, sometimes individuals do. You have that feeling, and like, gosh, I just doesn't feel right, and you reach out and talk to a friend and do some different things. But on the flip side of that, sometimes you don't understand and you don't realize that, and it is a family member recognizing some of those symptoms. That because oftentimes when you're lonely or you start developing the symptoms of depression, you become alone, where you isolate yourself. And if that's not your normal state, where I see a family member who really likes to be around people, who really likes to go to football games or those types of things, and they're no longer doing those things, then that's a cue to me as a family member that I better ask some questions to find out what's going on, and to try to help get my family member more connected so that they're not isolating and not being alone.
Are people like that, when I say like that, I mean being lonely, are they receptive to outside help from family or friends?
It's kind of on a case-by-case situation. I mean, loneliness is a very complex and unique, not unique, but it's very complex, and I guess it's unique to each individual in that, if you look at a child who is alone or is experiencing loneliness, you would address that a little bit differently than with an elderly person who maybe has lost a spouse who's going through loneliness. You would address that a little bit differently in terms of the resources and things that you would try to put into place to help them.
Well, let's talk specifically about the elderly right now. I mean, you have the loss of a spouse, you have maybe downsizing your living standards and everything else. Those are areas that come into play?
Absolutely. It's looking at those resources, trying to find things that interest you, and it's if you have a family member who is elderly, helping them get connected to some other things. So if you lose a loved one, or if you move to a new location, sometimes you lose those, you've lost a connection to your spouse, but if you're moving, even with your spouse, to a different location, maybe you're losing that connection to your neighborhood or to some of the social settings that you were used to being involved in. So it's finding new connections, finding new interests, and getting involved in those and trying some new things. So it's finding what's available, but then trying those things and trying to help build those connections. Connectedness is really important. Connectedness in our society, there's a lot of research behind connectedness, that the more connected we are to our family, to our friends, to our community, to our school, if a person is religious, to your church or religion, the more connected we are, the less likely it is that we're going to experience depression or the symptom, a symptom of depression, which is loneliness.
Is this kind of like stepping out of the box for some people?
Some people may be. It might be trying something that, here's some things that I've done all my life, but here's some new opportunities that I have, and it's stepping outside of the box and trying something new sometimes, because you might be surprised that, I've never done this before, I'm not sure if I would like it. I go to this activity and wow, this was fun, and that's where you meet people and you get reconnected with some things.
Kind of like the senior centers or what have you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, what about meditation or group therapy, things of that nature?
Well, if an individual is lonely and they're just not quite sure, I've mentioned the appetite, the sleep, and we're not quite sure if depression is present, it's important to have an evaluation and to look at, seeing your family doctor. At Bryan Medical Center, we have the counseling center where we have individuals available. If it's a crisis, sometimes if individuals are lonely and they feel like they may have thoughts of suicide, then it's important to take action immediately. Call 911, call the National Helpline 1-800-273-TALK, or go to the Bryan West Emergency Room where we have mental health nurse available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to determine if hospitalization is necessary. But we also have our online screening at bryanhealth.org, where you can answer some questions to determine if the signs and symptoms of depression are present, and then it gives you instructions on what steps to take. And that's free, it's confidential, but once you have that evaluation and it's determined that depression is present, then there's some things that treatment is very individualized. So a person, family doctor or psychiatrist may prescribe medication, or a person may benefit from therapy, or a combination of those two things, or one or the other. So there's different treatments for depression that are out there depending on your unique situation.
And of course, this being the holiday season, I'm certainly sure that adds a lot to it.
It does, because the holiday season, the traditions, you may be used to being around family and having things that you've done with a loved one, and if this, life circumstances have happened where it's changed your family makeup, this is the time of year where those things kind of stand out more, where things have changed. So that's why it's important maybe to try new traditions, to start a new hobby, to try something different, to get more involved in your community, to volunteer. This is also a great time of year. Any time of year is a great time of year to volunteer, but there's a lot of opportunities around the holidays to get involved, to help others, and oftentimes that is a great way to help combat that loneliness feeling.
So there is help available. All the people have to do is just say, help me.
Help me, right, absolutely, yes.
And of course your office, your location is right there for them.
Absolutely. The Bryan Counseling Center is available, where we have staff available to provide therapy services, but as I mentioned, we have different levels of care that are available to help individuals who may have depression or more, depending on the levels of depression. If it's more serious depression, we offer partial hospitalization as well as inpatient services as well.
Very good. Well, Dr. Myers, we want to thank you so much for being with us. You are the Counseling and Program Development Manager of Mental Health at Bryan, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
I'm Tom Johnson, reminding you that it's never too late to live and learn.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Bill Ainsley, your host for this segment of the program. When it is sunny and warm outside, it's fun to take a walk and go places, and it is good exercise. But then the weather turns cold and frosty with ice and snow, and we still need to go out to run errands, visit with people, and do a lot of fun activities, because when it's cold, we like to do the fun activities anyway. One activity to avoid is falling on the ice or snow, getting hurt, and ending up in the hospital. There are ways to reduce the chances of getting hurt this winter, and Peggy Apthorp is just the one to tell us about them. She's the Health and Fitness Coordinator for Aging Partners. Peggy, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bill. It's nice to be here.
It's always nice to have you with us too. Peggy, everyone wants to stay warm even when it is very cold. And December weather coming up, it's not going to be hot.
Right.
What kinds of hats, coats, and gloves should people wear?
Well, it's always a good idea to wear a hat because a lot of heat does escape through the top of our head. And it's a good idea to wear loose-fitting, layered clothing under your coat. Mittens apparently are better than gloves because you keep your fingers keep each other warm. I know sometimes they can be a little bit awkward, but they do keep your fingers warmer. Also, synthetic fabric or wool or silk would be the best type of fabric. Cotton is not good because it retains moisture. So cotton socks, cotton gloves, or mittens are probably not good. But it's, as I said, a good idea to keep warm and bundle up when you go outside. And sometimes if you do have a bulky coat, it could help to kind of pad a fall if you had one. We don't want you to have a fall, but if you did have on a bulky coat, it would be good. And if you could have a coat that was water repellent, that's helpful too.
That would be absolutely super. And I agree with you about the mittens because I've worn gloves and mittens in cold climates in Montana, and the mittens do a much better job of keeping your hand warm because your fingers can help each other. And
yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of confidence in fleece wear either as far as being able to keep you warm.
Yeah, that's right. That's not a good fabric either, but yeah.
When we see those shows from the Antarctic or way up north or way down south, we see penguins walking around and they never seem to take a fall. Why is that?
We can always learn something from the animals, can't we? When you walk with a wide stance, your center of gravity is lower and you're less likely to fall. Also, when you're walking in a wide stance, you're going to be slower, and it's good to have your arms out, not have your arms holding things, not be encumbered by that type of thing. If you need to carry things, maybe use a backpack, but having your arms kind of to your side helps with balance as well.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So we now know how to walk like a penguin.
Walk like a penguin. I've heard you could walk like a duck too, but the penguins seem to know how to walk on ice and snow.
And we have some tips for walking on the snow and ice here too. Wear boots or overshoes with grip soles, and look down and use special care when getting out of a car or a van. Or don't walk with your hands in your pockets, because if they're in your pockets, they can't catch you if you're taking a fall. The shuffling steps. Don't carry the heavy or large items, and place your full attention on walking. And look for those uneven surfaces like the sidewalks, where one section of the sidewalk is higher or lower than the other section, or the curbs. Can't see them because of the snow. And test the possible slick areas by tapping your foot on them to see if they're slick or not.
Well, I think overall, if you just slow down and pay attention, and in cold weather, don't assume that any sidewalk is going to be totally free of ice. Even those that are cleared, sometimes you'll run across an icy patch. Black ice, you can't always see that, and that can be very treacherous as well. So don't go out if you don't have to when it's really bad. But
Going back to my college days, which was a long, long, long time ago, I remember a song. The lyrics were something like, these boots were made for walking. And these boots were. You can see the soles.
Those are really good, yes.
Maybe you can talk about the soles a little bit, what to look for
Well,
in the soles of the boots.
this beveled sole, these are really good for traction. So these would absolutely be the kind of boot that you would want to wear in winter weather. It's obvious they can kind of grip the snow or ice, and those are excellent boots.
So one thing you don't want, though, is a bunch of boots or shoes that hardly have any tread at all.
Right.
Because when that happens, it's like walking on ice
Double.
with a slick sole.
Yes.
And you have something else here that
Well,
you can add to
the
our
other
boots
thing
and
that,
shoes to make them even safer.
Yes, these ice grippers are really a good idea, and these can be purchased at really
Probably.
a lot of the retail stores, sporting goods stores, sometimes even hardware stores will have these. These particular ones are made of wire, and they're excellent for walking on snow and ice because the wire adds another grip to that. So they're very good. They're not good to wear around the house because you can trip on the wire, or the wire catches with the carpet or the floor, but they're very good for walking on snow and ice. So a lot of times people will leave those by the door and put them on when they go out, and or leave them in the car if they have an attached garage, but don't wear them around the house because they could cause a fall.
And you can buy these at many shoe stores, and it's like walking on tire chains. When you're outside in the, I have a driveway that slopes, but when it's icy, I can put these on my shoes and just walk up and down that driveway like it's dry pavement. But don't wear these inside because they'll catch on the carpet.
Yeah.
They might even come off of your shoes.
Yes.
And you'd never know that they were gone.
That's true.
So you don't want to wear these on dry pavement or on carpet, but they're very good for walking
snow
on
and ice.
ice and snow.
Yep. Wear those and walk like a penguin, and that should help.
Now you also have the ice grippers on the. We have the boots for the
For the cane?
canes.
These, a lot of people, we teach a lot of fall prevention classes, and we found that a lot of times people don't know about these. These can be purchased usually at a home health store, and they cost in the neighborhood of $9 or $10. And they fit right over the cane. They're easy to put on. There's just a couple screws that attach them to the cane. And you can, when you're inside, you have it go up. It flips up. And then when you go outside, I can maybe try to show this here. It goes down like this, and it is very helpful on ice and snow. And we really encourage people to use canes and walkers if they need to. This happens to be just a plain wood cane, but there are many different styles and colors that you can buy that might be a little bit more stylish. But the ice grippers are very helpful for people.
And these are quite sharp too.
They
on the
are,
end,
yeah.
so
They just dig right into the ice or snow. And the manufacturer says you can use these on crutches. Now, I have never seen that happen, but you probably could use them on crutches as well.
So the grippers can be dangerous and seem slippery to walk on the carpet or even outside on dry pavement. So remember to remove them. Remember to put these back up when you're not using them.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to use this on your carpet either.
No, that would kind of tear up the carpet.
Yeah, but they easily flip back up, so they're really pretty nice.
Okay. Now you need to have a good sole to get a grip on things. It's pun is intended. Or you might be down for the long count. We just talked about people using the cane, so now how to use the cane and the ice grips on the cane. But you also talk about road crews. They put sand on the road to make it smoother going along. And maybe you can talk about how you can put sand down to see what's going on there.
One of the things that some people that we know have done, you can take just a regular water bottle. You could really even take a cup like this and fill it with kitty litter or sand or gravel, and you can carry it in your car. So before you get out of your car, you could kind of pour it down to make sure that that surface was a little more stable. Or you could just carry it with you and spread it as you're walking. So that was kind of an interesting idea that we came across, and we know a few people who are doing that.
Very good. Talk to us about that's the Shaker Fall Protection Campaign. But we see football players too wearing all sorts of protection. Maybe people think, I don't want to wear that, it doesn't look too stylish. But I'll tell you, when you get hit with you're a football player and you go down on your side or on your hips, you have all sorts of protection there to protect that hip.
Exactly. Well, one thing that this wouldn't be for everybody, but sometimes people don't know about these either, but there are what we call hip protectors that are available for purchase ordinarily through a home health store. And they have, especially if you have broken a hip, they provide padding in that hip area. And so you wear those under your clothes, and it just gives you a little bit of added protection if, unfortunately, you would take a fall. And I know of a lady who did break her hip and started wearing these, and she feels a lot more confident now that she's wearing them.
Oh, very good. So if you get hurt while you're out, you need ways to call for help. So Peggy, outside of screaming help, what can you do to call for help?
It's probably a good idea not to walk in an area where there aren't a lot of people around, like a wilderness park or something. But one of the best things would be our Philips Lifeline's Go Safe. And I believe earlier today there was a segment about that taped. That is it's like almost like a little cell phone that you can wear anywhere, and you press a button and you'll have immediate contact with emergency personnel. That would be one thing that you could do. You could always carry your cell phone, or you could have a whistle. Have a whistle around your neck, and if you happen to fall, you could at least blow the whistle so people would know that you needed help. But be prepared. I think that's kind of the main message. Be prepared in what you wear, be prepared in how you're walking, and be prepared in case of an emergency. There'd be a way to get help.
And somebody should know where you're going.
Yes,
Okay. Peggy, what more is there to say about walking safe this winter?
Well, I think the main thing is we want to do everything we possibly can to prevent falls. Because falls, especially for older adults, can be very treacherous and many times lead to a loss of independence. And in the wintertime, you need to be even more cautious in states like Nebraska where we have the ice and snow. So slow down, pay attention. Think about some of the things that we've talked about today, like the ice grippers, the cane ice gripper, taking sand along with you. Dress warm, and keep warm when you're in the house as well, because hypothermia, and when the body temperature drops below 95 degrees, can be very hard on people.
Peggy, lots of good information today, and how can they contact you?
Oh, our number at Aging Partners Health and Fitness is 402-441-7575. And we have fall prevention classes and other exercise programs going on an ongoing basis, so please give us a call and we'll give you more information about it.
Peggy, I want to thank you for being on the program today and giving us a great deal of very important information. I'm Bill Ainsley, thanking you for watching today and reminding you it's never too late to live and learn.
Is there anything that connects us to our childhood more than the toys we played with? I'm Kristen Stows, and today we are taking a walk down memory lane with Mike Breda, owner of Toys from the Past. Mike, welcome to Live and Learn.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful to have you here. I have to say, walking into your store is much like walking into any parent's attic. I loved it. It is so difficult to part with our own or our children's toys just because of the wonderful memories they instill. So I have to ask you, was your childhood rich with toys?
I pretty much got whatever I wanted. So I was the youngest of 4 kids, and I got all the new toys I wanted, and I got their old toys. So yeah, I had a lot of toys.
So you had plenty to play with, and I understand your father was actually a toy collector himself?
He collected toys, yes he did, and had a house full of them.
So time went by, and you came by this so naturally that you thought this was an interest that you wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
In a little bit different way, maybe.
In a little bit different way, yeah. I kind of got out of it for a while, and then started collecting, and then at some point I bought a friend's business and just turned it into a toy store and opened up my own toy store.
Well, that's wonderful. You certainly had the knowledge going in.
Yeah.
Yes. We will start by looking at our first picture, and this is a picture of a doll that I brought in. Please tell us what makes a toy valuable.
As far as making a toy valuable, when it comes to this toy in particular, the box definitely helps. Condition is usually one of the biggest factors. It doesn't look like you really played with her too much, so she's in excellent shape. You know, with just as she is without the box, she'd be about $35, $40, somewhere in that range. By the time you add the box, you're almost doubling the price. So.
Really? You know, and it's so hard to hang on to those boxes, but obviously it's worth it.
It is, most definitely. It's worth hanging on to.
Yeah, so we need to remember that. While I know you do not concentrate on dolls, I want to ask you about the original Barbie doll, because everyone always has a question about that. How do you know what generation of Barbie doll you might have, and how much is that original doll worth?
Going back to the #1 Barbie, she would have holes in the bottom of her feet, and the stand is just a little round disc with a couple pieces of metal sticking out of it. Really? She didn't stand very well, so the #2 Barbie, which came out the same year, they changed to a different stand. So the #2 and 3 Barbies, the way to tell those is by smelling the legs, and they smell like crayons.
Truly?
Yep, the plastic aged and smells like
Okay.
crayons. So
Oh
a #1 Barbie in the original box can bring upwards of $3,000 or $4,000.
Oh, wow. Well, that would be worth looking into your closets and checking.
Most definitely, yes.
Yes, I think we'll all be doing that when we go home. Are more women or men likely to be collectors?
Men are more into collecting than women. Women tend to save a lot more. Men, they do collect, but they do tend to sell their toys off a lot more. So, yeah.
So they collect and then the women save.
Yep, exactly.
What is the hot item in vintage toys right now?
Star Wars. That doesn't seem to go away. So ever since 1977, when the first toys came out, they've just been going strong, and now new movies, more toys.
So we're going to be looking at a few Star Wars pictures, and I'd like to have you just talk a little bit about the Star Wars industry itself, because is it not just an industry that goes on and on?
It is. It's they've been making toys, like I said, since '77. I think there was about maybe a 10-year break in there where they didn't really do much with Star Wars, but then when the prequels came out, it went crazy again. So, you know, there's one of the older original boxes right there with the TIE Fighter, and they're definitely worth a lot more than the newer stuff.
So that was my next question. If you have a vintage TIE Fighter?
TIE Fighter,
TIE
yes.
Fighter, or a new one, then the older one is the one that's going to get
the older one is worth 10 times more than the newer one.
Oh my goodness! Well, maybe it will keep expanding, and this will go on for another generation or two.
Is
that your hope?
I definitely think so. That is my hope. Yes.
What makes a toy vintage versus antique?
Vintage is anything probably from about 1989 back to, I would say, 50s, 40s, somewhere in that range. When you start talking antique, when it comes to toys, you're really thinking cast iron, 10 toys from the 40s, maybe 50s, you could consider antique. Okay. There's kind of a fine line there, but usually the stuff from the 40s on back.
Okay. Yeah. And just because a toy is older does not mean that it is more valuable. Is that true?
That is true. It's all supply and demand. It's who's collecting it. So, yeah.
Okay. Another vintage toy grouping that you said is pretty hot right now are the Marvel comic book figures.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Marvel and DC, the comic book figurines.
Okay.
They're putting out a lot of movies right now. It seems that toys really follow the new movies that are coming out. And Marvel and DC both have been putting out 1 or 2 movies every year. So we're getting the old characters re-released and new fans every day. So.
Okay. Are Marvel comic books still in production? I really don't know.
Yes, actually. There are lots of comic books still being made today. It's not as popular as it used to be. Again, more people are collecting than reading, I think. So,
okay.
yeah, comic books are still in production today.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, let's work back in time just a little bit to the era of metal toys. Surprisingly to me, these really are not as valuable as I thought they might be.
There are a few that hold their value. The space toys have quite a bit of value. When you come across some old play sets and things like that, they have decent value, but a lot of the collectors they're getting out of the hobby or selling off their collections, and the value goes down when that happens. So.
I see. Okay. Yeah. This last picture that we will get to here is of a baseball game, again, one that I brought in for you to look at. And I believe you said that this is around the 1920s.
Yep.
And that 15 years ago, this might have been worth $200, but now it's more like 30 or 40.
Yeah, that's how the market goes. It's there's less collectors for it, and a lot of them have shown up, and the supply outweighs the demand now, so
right.
the price has definitely dropped on a lot of stuff.
So every toy has its day.
Yes, exactly.
And when the day is gone,
yep, exactly.
yeah, it's gone. Another interesting collection you have that took me by surprise was glassware. You really have quite a collection of glassware.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that and the importance of what makes this valuable.
A lot of people nowadays, they like to relive their past, and you know, what's great to go to your cupboard and open up your cupboard and grab a glass that, you know, you got from, I believe it was a couple restaurants here in town back in the 70s. You could buy them, or sometimes they did giveaways. So they seem to be one of the more popular
promotional pieces
things.
are really another thing that we should think about hanging on to if we can.
Definitely.
Another display you had was Pez dispensers, which just made me laugh. Are those still in demand?
Yes, they are, actually. That's how eBay got started, was from
really?
a Pez collector. So his wife collected them, and so he decided to start a website to get people to sell them. And Pez, it's just, there's so many collectors out there. It's probably one of the most collected items out there as far as a non-toy toy.
Okay.
But yeah, they're the ones with no feet on them are older.
Oh,
and
okay.
They're more highly sought after.
I see. Well, that's very interesting. Games are making a comeback?
They are. Lots of families coming in to buy games for family game night now. So I think people are getting tired of the video games a little bit, and they want to get back to the old days of sitting around the table and playing Battleship or Clue, and definitely
like
Monopoly. So
yes, I like that a lot. Family game night is the best. We now have a set of puzzles that we will be putting on screen. These are my favorite because they are mine. These, I guess, are even older than I thought they might be.
Yep,
Let's talk about this a little bit.
They're from the 30s. The old Pie Eye Mickey, when he's got that little piece of pie missing from his eye, that's the early Mickeys. That changed sometime in the mid to late 40s, I believe. And it's hard to find the earlier stuff, especially in the condition that these are in. They're in excellent condition.
Yeah, I don't recall playing with these, and they were probably my mother's, I'm guessing.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah.
Yes.
Sat in the closet.
Well, I know your eyes lit up when I set those down. You thought that was quite a find, right?
Yep, very much so, yes.
Well, it's fun to have, and I will not let my granddaughters play with those. Everything else is fair game.
There you go.
Do you do toy appraisals, Mike?
We do, yes. We can, if you bring it in the shop, we can do 1 or 2 items, or a carload. We come out to houses, and we can appraise an entire basement full. So
that's fabulous. We will be putting on screen your contact information, so if anyone has something to appraise, they can get in touch with you. Also, if any of our viewers are downsizing and have toys that they are looking to get rid of, it's possible that you would be interested in looking at them. How does that work?
again, we can either go out to your house or they can bring them to the shop. We usually do about 50% of what an item is worth.
Oh, okay.
So
that seems fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful resource to know about, I think. One last question that I thought we'd talk about just a minute. Do you find talking about toys with your clients kind of cathartic and even sometimes very emotional for people?
It can be. We've had collections come in where a child has passed away, and they really didn't want to get rid of them, but they'd rather see somebody enjoy them than have them just sit there. But there's a lot of memories attached to toys. Toys, for the most part, is most people's childhood. So, they just hold memories.
Yeah, they do, and I think they bring generations together. I know when I was in your shop, we brought up the Teddy Ruxpin doll, which of course I still have my son's Teddy Ruxpin, and you had a client in there that engaged us in conversation about Teddy Ruxpin. I mean, you just never know what other people's memories are, and it does bring people together in conversation.
It does, yes it does, and we have lots of conversations every day in there.
And usually very happy conversations, right?
Usually, yes. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of fun with your work, your passion.
I get to play with toys all day, every day.
I think everybody would like to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Breda, we certainly thank you for being with us today and taking us down memory lane.
Thanks for having me.
We've loved it. Thanks. It's been fun. And thank you to all of you for taking this walk down memory lane with us. It's never too late to live and learn.